Hello everyone. Welcome to AP Overstimulated. Today, we will be covering AP Government, Topic 1.1. So let's begin. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of how our government works and maintains itself, we need to talk about its origins. As you may know, our government was founded by a group of men known as the Founding Fathers. They came together to create a new government after kicking King George's booty in the Revolutionary War. For them, priority number one was to avoid creating a tyrannical system of government like the monarchy they had just escaped. They wanted to form a nation where the power to govern was in the hands of the people. To guide them, they turned to the philosophical ideas of the Enlightenment. The Enlightenment was a period of time in Europe that gave rise to a series of unprecedented philosophical ideas. Many of these ideas were centered around new ideals of democracy and human rights, and the Founding Fathers ate those up. For AP Gov, there are four main Enlightenment philosophers and their ideas that you need to know. They are Thomas Hobbes, John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Baron de Montesquieu. Let's start with Thomas Hobbes, whose ideas came first among the four philosophers. Hobbes, apart from having the most clapped hairline in all of Europe, is best known for his theory of the state of nature in his book The Leviathan. Essentially, Hobbes believed that without organized government, society would exist in its initial form, which Hobbes refers to as a state of nature. In this state of society, Hobbes argues that people would be in constant conflict, going to drastic lengths to preserve their own freedom. To avoid this, Hobbes argued that humans have to surrender some of their rights to a government, trusting that government to protect them. John Locke built on Hobbes' theory, but with a more optimistic perspective. In his second treatise on civil government, Locke portrayed the state of nature more positively, arguing that humans are guided by reason and can, for the most part, coexist peacefully without a government. He believed that all individuals are born with certain natural rights, which are rights inherent to every human being, regardless of their gender, race, or standing in society. Locke defined these natural rights as life, liberty, and property, and concluded that no government could sustain itself if it failed to protect these rights. You might recognize Locke's theory in the opening line of the Declaration of Independence, which states, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." Thomas Jefferson changed property to the pursuit of happiness, but the core principles still apply. Locke also argued that if a government became tyrannical and violated the natural rights of the people had the right to overthrow that government and reclaim their rights. Hobbes and Locke's ideas tie into that of the next philosopher, Jean-Jacques Rousseau. In his book The Social Contract, Rousseau defined the relationship between the people and their government as a social contract. Like Locke, Rousseau argued that if a government fails to uphold its end of the bargain, the people have the right to terminate the contract and rebel. Rousseau expanded on this idea by introducing the concept of popular sovereignty, the idea that the power of a nation is in the hands of the people. Popular sovereignty is a fundamental ideal in the United States democracy. Finally, let's discuss Baron de Montesquieu. Montesquieu was a French philosopher who contributed two key ideas to the foundation of American government: republicanism and the separation of powers. As defined by Montesquieu, republicanism is a system of government in which the people elect representatives with limited terms to represent them in government. For the separation of powers, Montesquieu argued that, to prevent tyranny, the powers of government should be divided into three branches: one that makes laws, one that enforces those laws, and one that interprets the laws. This separation of powers ensures that no one branch becomes too powerful. Montesquieu's ideas were reflected in the U.S. Constitution, which divides government into three branches: the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. The legislative branch, in particular, is a reflection of republicanism because it is made up of elected representatives who make laws on behalf of the people. Now that we've laid the philosophical foundation, let's talk about how these ideas were incorporated into the foundational documents that created the United States. First up, the Declaration of Independence. By now, you probably know how the story goes. American colonists were being taxed without representation and were forced to quarter British soldiers in their homes. Fed up with British treatment, a group of delegates met in Philadelphia to discuss rebellion. The convention concluded with the decision to create a document that would justify their revolt and outline their grievances. This led to the drafting of the Declaration of Independence by Thomas Jefferson, with help from John Adams and Benjamin Franklin. As mentioned earlier, the Declaration is full of references to natural rights and promotes the idea of a new nation based on the principle of popular sovereignty. After gaining independence from Britain, the United States formed a new, decentralized government under the Articles of Confederation. However, this government was messy and ineffective, leading the states to hold the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia to create a new structure. George Washington led the convention, and with contributions from Alexander Hamilton and James Madison, the convention formed a grand committee to draft a new constitution. The new Constitution of the United States, primarily written by James Madison, is also full of Enlightenment ideas. The Constitution is an example of a social contract that limits the power of the government through the separation of powers and puts the power of the nation in the hands of the people through popular sovereignty. All right, that's it for the introductory topic of AP Government. I hope you learned something. Bye-bye.